declare us out of executive session at 9:40.
So because we previously made a motion to appoint Lauren Van Driel to Ward 3 council seat, Ward 3 will not be opening up for additional applications, but I would recommend that this council open applications for the mayor's seat to be accepted now until May 13th, and then interview the night of May 13th if we get more applications for the mayor position, and make an appointment on that night for mayor. And then tonight to interview the additional 2 individuals we have in the room for the mayor position.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is that all good?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Alright, motion passes 5-1. So now we will ask, what were we, Fergus first, alphabetical.
You sure about this?
Yeah.
We're hoping you guys will come back.
Yeah.
Hopefully they stay.
No, we had a good time getting to know each other, so it's good. I'm gonna just introduce myself quickly, and then if you have a few questions, feel free to ask me. But I am newer to the community, so Danny Fergan is my name. I'm down here at 117 South Garfield Street. And my wife's name is Kansas. We have a whole football team of kids, so we have 9 kids. Most of them, or half of them, are probably sleeping about now, so we're all good. But we moved here about 2 years ago. We were in Sioux Falls most of our entire married life, actually, and wanted to just be in a smaller community, and so looked at different places, and during that time there obviously wasn't a lot to find anyways. And we just kind of kept on getting pulled to Lennox, and the house finally opened up, put an offer in like that, and we moved in 2 months later. So since that, we really developed core roots in Lennox. Our kids are connecting with friendships and getting involved in school and sports. And I'm finding myself even drawn more and more to this community. And I thought that I should put my name in for mayor. And I kind of went back and forth when that deadline was happening, and then it was noon, and then I thought, well, forget it. And then I emailed Nate, and he said, you could sure submit it yet. And so I did that, and if it seems to work out great, and if not, that's fine too. And I'm still excited about the community of Lennox and getting involved too. So over the years, I've worked a few different careers and have been kind of gravitated toward different leadership opportunities. So back even when my first career at the Ramcota Hotel, worked as a supervisor and a night manager there. Then after that, I worked for Hope Haven. I oversaw a wheelchair operations ministry and supervised the wheelchair shop at the state penitentiary too. So was up at the prison quite a bit, overseeing operations there. Then I took a position with Central Church. I was there for 8 years, and I oversaw operations and different staff members there, behind the scenes, support staff, different things like that. 2 months ago, I switched over to a company called Mid-States Audio and Video as a general manager, and a company that installs sound systems and video systems. And so I've always gravitated toward leadership opportunities over the years, and I'm excited about this one. I have been on various boards before, never in a city council type position before, but I've been on advisory boards for different ministries and organizations. Church boards I've been a part of, and really have learned and respected the due process of a board and the good dialogue and conversation that can happen, and sometimes get heated at times and can get frustrating, but there's a due process for a reason, and I respect that, and I have an incredible respect for authority too, which a lot of people don't necessarily understand that or have that respect too. So I don't come across and don't think I have all the answers at all, but I think I can help with asking good questions and helping think through things. And I'm just a pretty rational, even-keeled kind of guy. Nothing gets me too worked up, and I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited where Lennox is going to grow, and regardless of what happens, I'm here and committed to the city of Lennox. So it's a little bit about me. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Yeah, it sounds
Awesome, love the energy, love your experience and what you've been involved in. When we, have to make public appearances, I think you do fantastic with that.
Sure.
And that's part of what the mayor does, is be a face for the community.
Yeah.
The other side is that they're approached oftentimes by people that aren't feeling so great about where our community
Yeah.
stands and want to share their thoughts and opinions. How do you handle that type of a conflict approach where someone comes to you with anger?
I've had that a lot. I mean, I worked at the prison. I worked with inmates that were not all, some were great, some weren't necessarily all there, that they didn't take their medicine or that type of thing. So, also working in a church world where when I was at Central Church, our church grew by 84%. And so we had a number of thousands of people that would come on our weekend services, and I got cornered a lot by different congregants and people, because I sat on our leadership team there. And sometimes I would entertain a conversation and listen, and they would say, thanks for letting me vent, and I said, you're welcome. Or sometimes it wasn't the time and place, and said, I'd love to just chat with you later. So I've had conflict a lot over the years. When you lead staff, and even in a public setting, kind of like, I would say a church is a public setting too, like that I've had that quite a bit too. So, and I think that whenever you are in a situation, you do your best job to make decisions with what you have and the resources you have. And honestly, you do it with integrity. And if you do that, you're just trusting yourself.
No doubt.
You said you were pulled to Lennox. What specifically pulled you to Lennox? What about?
Well, yeah, when we were looking at different, like, should we live in Parker or Hurley or Del Rapids, and I had a brother that lived here for a number of years, and so we had some friendships and some people that we knew. So we were like, if we had a kid that we had to take to Sioux Falls to the hospital, we knew we can call so and so down the street to come pick them up, or to come watch our other kids or that type of thing. Also, I saw Lennox was a community that wasn't dying. I saw it thriving and growing, and looking at the houses that were getting put up. Chuck's was just like getting remodeled that summer, I think maybe too. And I mean, who doesn't get excited about ice cream? So I saw that this isn't a community that's going to just keep going downhill. The school was growing like crazy, but it still had the small town feel. I feel comfortable with letting my kids play outside, or letting my 11-year-old girl drive her bike around town. So it just makes you feel safe. I grew up in Meadow, South Dakota, so a small town as well. So that's kind of what drew us to Lennox.
So you talk about, first of all, I just want to thank you for coming tonight, because
Yeah.
It's very hard to get up in front of people, and if it sounded like I didn't want you to interview, I definitely do want you here. I would like to hear more about kind of what makes you unique, or maybe some visions for where you see Lennox in the next 5 years.
Sure, yeah. I would say what makes me unique is I consider myself being a caring person, a good listener. I might have an opinion about something, but I definitely like to have ideas and conversation, and my opinion might change because of that. I'm not dead set in my ways, or I think I'm the most knowledgeable person in the room or anything like that. So try to take a humble approach at things. So I would say that's what makes me unique. I think some of my just experience within leadership within different career paths I've had sets me apart too. I've worked in the corporate world, I've worked in a religious organization before, worked within boards before too, so I have that experience too. So I would say those are probably the couple of things that make me unique about that. Visions for Lennox. I think it's going to be a unique challenge of having and strategizing growth within Lennox, but not become a bigger city, because I still want to. I love it that we're Class A here in Lennox, and not a AA school. That kids can go off for multiple sports. I know you can't always decide that, but I like that about Lennox, and I think that'll stay that way for a while. So I love that we can keep the small town values and traditions, the 4th of July celebration, things like that. That's a big deal that we found out that this is a big deal, the 4th of July celebration. We loved it. Last year it rained, so hoping for better weather this year.
We
But
all are.
yeah. So just keeping those small town traditions are important. That way I hope my kids have those fond memories that I did when growing up in a small town.
Could you share the timeline as to how you came about to turn in an application?
Yeah, I follow, just like the whole town of Lennox, different city things on Facebook, and so I saw that there was an open position, and it's like, I think I'm in Ward 3. I'm like, interesting, oh, mayor, interesting. And I teetered back and forth, I started filling out the application, and I'm like, like, I'm a new guy to Lennox, why would anyone submit their name for a position? I've only been here a little over 2 years. And I thought, well, sometimes a fresh perspective on things would be helpful in different situations. But also, it's just this heart pull that I had of caring for Lennox and wanting it to thrive, too. So, I think a couple of days after that application deadline was done, I emailed Nate and I said, would you still take applications? I know it's past the deadline, and he said, the council wouldn't, ultimately decide that. We'll talk about it, but you can sure submit your application, and so I did that then later too. So, and I talked to Billy a little bit too about it, and he's been a long hauler here on the city council for a while, and I wouldn't consider Billy a friend, but I know we know each other, and so I'm like, if he's been doing it for this long, it must be all right. So, and Sam coaches my kid in wrestling and too, and so there's a couple of people I know that I have respect for, and I'm like, okay. And I just felt this pull, and if Nate said submit your application, and if you decided to interview me, I said, well, then I guess that's the way the door's going to open. And if the door shuts, that's fine too. So I'll have other ways to participate. So.
Have you, in your 2 years here, questioned any of the decisions we've made, or is there topics that are hot with you of why did you make that decision, or why did you go this way? Is there anything that has resonated with you that this is why I want to get involved, or is it?
Yeah, I haven't questioned things because I have, just with being involved with boards, I understand there's so much homework that goes into decision making. It's not just what do we feel like doing today. And so, and I really enjoyed the question and answer time that Nate does on Facebook Live, and kudos to him. And I don't know how much he makes, but he should probably get paid more. If he's gonna open that door, so.
We get that from a lot of people.
And he's a Dort alum, aren't you?
I am.
Too, so and I went to Dort as well, so that kind of, I just thought if you had a city administrator that was that transparent to do like public things on Facebook Live, it's like, you can tell there's some authenticity here and integrity. And so I just am excited about that opportunity. So I'm excited just to dive in more. I fill out like the surveys that go out online too, that I just did the flag football one earlier today too. So it's like I can try to give a little bit of a voice into things, and I appreciate that you even ask citizens their opinions about things too. So.
All right,
Sounds good.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
thank you,
sticking around
appreciate your
tonight.
time.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, Ms. Peterson.
Okay, mine will be a little different.
We like that.
Do ya?
Yes, we do.
Let's see. I learned a few things tonight.
Let's have you introduce yourself first and where you live, just
Fair
so it's
enough, fair
formal.
enough. Rob Peterson. I live in the Meadows for, going on 4 years now, I guess, probably. Came from Minneapolis here, so big cities, small city. But I've lived all over South Dakota. We raised our kids in Watertown, 22 years, I believe. And lived in T for a while, grew up in Brandon. So I've experienced the bigger cities, experienced the smaller cities, always kind of drawn to the smaller towns. Brandon was very small when I grew up there. Don't want to get into my age, but I'm retired. So, but do still work a little bit. I'm the assistant superintendent at the golf course in Hartford. Work-wise, I was a regional sales manager for Sherwin-Williams. I was with the company for 33 years. Graduated from USD and got on to Sherwin-Williams right away. And just kind of grew with them. And, last job I had to be in Minneapolis, it's 60 miles from a major airport, so. Otherwise, I probably would not have moved there, but it had great, you know, it had great things too. So every place has good, bad, and sideways. But reason I'm interested in the position, yeah, I'm interested in the position. But the reason, it'd be a great way to get to know people, right? You get to how better to serve your community than get to know everybody and get to know the city. To serve. So.
Rob, I appreciate you coming in tonight, and like I said earlier, being up here in front of us it takes a lot. It's a lot harder than it looks, you know, online or in person to get up in front of a panel of people. So you've been here for 4 years. In that 4 years, I'm curious what you think of Lennox so far, and if there's anything that has stood out to you that, hey, I really love this about the town, or I really wish the city would focus on this.
You know, not really. I mean, in our time here, most of my working has been outside the city, so been kind of just wanting to really get to know people, get to know the city, find a way to serve the city so you can really understand how it goes and what happens here. But I guess I wouldn't say there's anything that I've seen that I wish was done different. I've been on many boards through sports in my life too, and I know that, you know, it takes a lot, and there's not a lot that you can really dispute as far as what my take on most things is if people have the guts and willingness to serve, let them do it, you know. If you want to have a say, then step up and get involved.
I'm gonna, you get the advantage of hearing me ask the question to Danny already, but I'll ask you the same thing about conflict resolution. You'd be a figurehead and face of our city, and people do want to shake your hand, and a lot of folks want to tell you how good things are, but there are folks that will approach you and tell you how much things aren't what they want them to be. And sometimes they get adamant about it. How do you handle a situation like that?
Well, just by nature, I guess I'm a very empathetic person and a very patient person, so I've had both sides. You know, I've had folks come up extremely happy about things in a workplace, and other times people very disappointed and want to talk and want to vent. I just listen. I'm an excellent listener, and usually through that process of listening and letting them tell their story, a lot of times there's some underlying pieces that isn't what they're really discussing, but you get the feeling for there's more, and you discuss that a little bit with them and try to work towards a amicable solution, but more just diffusing through empathy and listening.
When did you first start considering this opportunity, we'll call it?
Well, let's call it an opportunity, because that's what it is. I would say that, to be honest, I wasn't looking at it when the original piece came out. Then when I had a neighbor that very much thought, you know, sometimes it takes a little push. He said, look, you'd be good at this, you should look into it. And of course, it was after the date, so I said, well, I again talked to Nate and talked to you a little bit, Bill, and I put in my application. I learned some things tonight I didn't know. No, I learned that it's only like a year, and then we're starting from scratch again. I didn't realize that, so. Not a deal breaker, but certainly just something I didn't know.
The typical term is 2 years, it's just when you're appointed, it's only 1 year. That's the difference.
Can you talk about your involvement in the baseball board of directors and the Watertown hockey board of directors, and kind of work you did with them.
Yeah, we had a typical board, we had a president, vice president, and then a bunch of worker bees. Maybe half a dozen, I suppose. I probably on both, it's probably a 6 to 8 member board for both of them. I had a kid that played baseball all the way through graduation, up through VFW there, and hockey as well. And just getting to know folks up there. Decided I wanted to serve, wanted to get involved, wanted to help, make sure it was going in a decent direction. So I got involved, and we did a lot of planning for tournaments, things like that, and got to know folks from other communities around the state, different things for planning like that too.
Right.
So it's just anytime you can serve in any kind of a function, you get to know people and you get to know communities, and
Right.
that's a great function. But I was not a president or vice president on the board, but I
Yeah.
certainly
No, you took the
was on
initiative.
several of them for
Right.
a long time.
It shows you have a little bit of drive at least to take the initiative to get on the board. That's the kind of thing you want.
So then, how did you circle back and get to Lennox? Like, what drew you here exactly?
You know, what got us here was when we came back from Minneapolis, and we were looking for a house. We said, well, we're not moving again, right? I'm basically retired, my wife's still working, let's just find the right house. Neighborhood, none of that, not concerned, not looking to be by family, they're all over this part of the country. But let's find the right place. So we looked all over Sioux Falls, couldn't find what we were looking for, looked around T, couldn't find what we were looking for. Got down here and we found just the right place, and I'd always heard really good things about Lennox. In fact, back in my early days with Sherwin, I had relationships with the folks at Sioux Steel after they came to town here, and also Wilson Trailer. A little bit more on my background with Sherwin-Williams was for that 33 years. A lot of the time I was the industrial sales rep for Sherwin-Williams in South Dakota. I covered the whole state, so all I did is work with manufacturers. So I knew those folks, and they all talked great about the community. Ended up being my neighbor across the street is also from Watertown, which I pulled up to his house when we came to town. I said, "What do you think of the community?" He said, "Oh, it's a great place." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's just look at the house, see what we think," and we liked it. So next thing you know, we're here. Just like we were talking out in the hall there, that it's really not that far. People always worry, if you get too far away from Sioux Falls, it's tough. Well, it doesn't take any longer to drive from here to Sioux Falls than it does from the east side of Sioux Falls to the west side of Sioux
Well,
Falls.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Quicker
we're
from
trying to
here.
get people to
Yeah.
understand that and grasp that, that's the truth, so.
A lot less stressful drive too.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I see you spent 20 years in the military.
I did, 20 years in the South Dakota Air Guard.
I've got a son-in-law in your guard.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've got a daughter-in-law in the Air Guard as well.
I have a son in there.
You do?
Yes.
Nice.
Since we're going around the table, my
Yeah.
husband.
Hey, Air Guard.
There we go.
Couldn't leave that, so.
No, of course not.
Especially since he's deployed.
Right, right.
He is now?
He is.
Right now? Sure, so's my daughter-in-law. Probably the same place.
Right, not to be said out loud.
Correct.
All right, anything else? All right, we appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us for
Yeah.
a while here this evening.
No problem, thank you guys, appreciate the
Thanks.
Yes.
consideration.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so anything else?
We're not gonna do business yet?
All right.
Are we looking?
Mike, are we done? No, okay.
No.
On to new business. Here we go, everybody. Architect selection.
Mayor and Council, this is to fill the RFP for architectural services from earlier this year for the Historical Museum and for the band shell. We heard from 5 respondents to the RFP at the meeting on April 8th. all respondents appear qualified to complete the work, and quotes were requested from each to assist in our selection. Those quotes are here. Would note that Plan Architecture withdrew from consideration late last week. So that's why there's a not applicable noted on theirs. Because this was an RFP and not a formal bid, and because these are professional services, they're not subject to the bid laws. There's no requirement to select the lowest bidder. With that being said, this portion of the project was not included in the existing budget. We should therefore use our best judgment in selecting the respondent that gives us the best bang for our buck. My recommendation is a motion to negotiate a final agreement with Coke Hazard Architects.
So I took pretty extensive notes the evening that we listened to the architect proposals, and I had, is it Coke?
Coke.
I had them starred as my top two, that and Stone Group were the two that I wanted to move forward with, depending on what their price sheet came in at. So I guess I'm comfortable with that. If you want some of my notes, I can sure give you those, but I'm comfortable with Nate's recommendation as well.
There didn't appear to be a bad option, honestly.
Yeah.
And
No.
the plan made it pretty easy by withdrawing.
Yeah.
I think ID8, Billy and I had a conversation after the last meeting about, they seem very impressive and very interested in the small town and that whole side of it, but when you look at the premium on price, it starts to change a little bit. And Coke comes in at a level that I think makes the most sense. I'd agree with Brittany in that regard. They were absolutely competent.
Yeah, I'd be good with it.
I did sit there and watch it all. It's a little hard to follow, but
Yeah, on recording, I'm sure.
Who's their structural engineer?
I have to go back to the last meeting to look at that.
Cause I know there was two of them that had Rise, so.
They have this Greg Hannestead was from SEA, was their structural engineer.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just wondering why the one is $1,700 and then we got $4,500.
So RSA was the first one, and then Stone Group was second. They both work with Rise. Stone Group was my top choice, I guess. Just, you know, they're the ones that went out and viewed Van Shell and talked about the structure of it. And to me, that they were on site and they were inspecting it and they could tell us right away that, hey, you have some problems here. That really stood out.
I think some of the other ones
I
did.
think Coke
And-
Hazard came as well.
Yes, but when you talk about the and kind of counting them out, that was one thing, you know, I don't even think he even really drove by the project or anything. To me, that stood out with some of the other ones that they took that extra
You
step.
say ID8? ID8 was the two gals
Right.
From Brookings?
Correct,
from Brookings.
correct.
It was
Plan
planned.
was the last
Plan,
guy.
sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
What were those notes?
Yeah, it's a picture of my notes,
But
because
yeah, no, I think Folk Hazard is a solid choice as well. I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to hire Coach Hazard,
Thank you.
negotiate, sorry.
Final
We would
agreement.
have to say up to a certain amount.
No,
Final agreement?
Yeah, I'll come back with an agreement for approval with that as the final.
Second.
amount.
so motion is second. Is there any further discussion there?
You will come back before anything's signed, right?
Correct,
So we don't need a roll call, so we're not spending any money.
correct. You're just authorizing me to enter negotiations.
Gotcha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay, so 5-0. Let's roll call there. Not roll call. Consent. On to the next one, award bids, street sweeper.
Mayor and council, last week Thursday afternoon, we opened bids for the street sweeper. Received one bid from Sanitation Products for $100,000. Do have a bid bond here that was received as well. Specs appear to meet our needs. There was one that they marked no and proposed an acceptable solution, actually our preferred solution in the end of the game. So I I have not gone through this with city attorney yet, so I would recommend approval pending city attorney review.
Is there anything that we need to review in the documents? I just don't see.
There's
it.
no documents in
Okay.
there. I can email them around. It's really just the bid tab, the security, and the specs, spec sheet.
I'll make a motion to award bid to sanitation products pending city attorney review.
Second.
Do we feel like that's, even if we only got one bid, do we feel like that is a good price?
It's the exact same price we were quoted previously, so, and the same sweeper.
You just never know when there's only one
Right.
bidder if somebody tries to.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion there? Okay, we're spending $100,000, so Welch.
Aye.
Swear.
Aye.
Doherty.
Aye.
Bowers.
Aye.
Riley.
Aye.
Mauer.
Aye.
All right. New street sweeper for us. And Emerald Ash Borer plan.
Mayor and council, asking for a or a motion on approval for this plan, but just note that it's something that'll change, probably fairly frequently. I would imagine this is gonna come back to you probably every month, for the foreseeable future with updates or requests for minor changes, but, as you know, Danner confirmed the presence of Emerald Ash Borer in Lennox. We've been taking steps already, to mitigate, that infestation. And we've also put together this initial EAV management plan. That's included here for your review. It's also important to note that this will have budgetary implications. We did not budget for the purchase of additional tree care supplies, contracted tree removal, or ash tree treatment. Thankfully, our work through contractors this year will likely be limited to a removal of about a dozen trees, so it's not gonna be huge.
Did you say 11?
Dozen or so, yeah. I think staff are probably gonna be able to take care of most of the ones in the park without risking any damage to any other facilities, so.
I'm sorry, we're gonna cut down our own trees?
We're gonna cut down a lot of trees, yes. Upwards of 50 this summer. Excuse me, I said a dozen, that doesn't include the trees along Elm Street, and those are gonna have to go as well. Those are the ones under the power lines.
Thinking of safety.
Who's gonna be cutting these down? Like, there's some big trees in there, and that's a big specialized deal. Like, cutting down trees of that size, because whenever you drop them, they will leave huge holes, and someone will fall.
Yeah, we went through, we walked through the park with the streets department last week. I think it was Wednesday, and took a look at all the ones that have been marked for removal, all the ones that we anticipate being marked for removal, and discussed which ones they were comfortable with removing, which ones they were not.
Could we,
If we want to
get
contract
a
out more,
quote for,
No.
can we just get a quote for a contractor to come in and remove the trees? Like how much? I just don't think that we should require our employees to do something that they weren't really hired to do. I don't think this is necessarily within their job description. I mean, tree removal,
Have they done that before for us?
yes.
These,
Well, Brian certainly
well,
has. I don't know that Drew or
like-
Andy or Kevin have.
let's talk about this. Like, are we talking about a normal sized tree, or are we talking about these big trees in the park?
We're talking about, I mean, some are
How
gonna
big
be,
around is-
some are gonna be this big around. The larger ones are, we're talking 30 inches plus. That's not something we're gonna be doing.
so which ones will our employees be removing?
If you look at all the ones along what would be eventually South Cedar Street coming off the highway, they'd be taking care of those. They're comfortable with those because once you notch them, that loader can push them where we need them to go.
Whenever you
Not
do
the trees along Elm Street. A number of the smaller ones along the baseball and softball field on Parker Drive, we would take care of those. There's a few others here and there.
whenever you notch them and push them over, those big heavy trees, that's when you end up leaving huge, like, branches will stick straight into the ground, and it will cause nothing but problems to do with that, just saying.
You got electric lines, water lines?
Over there, we don't have anything.
None?
Underground.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, underground.
I don't think we have anything over there.
Well,
We can do our,
We got like fire hydrants or water hydrants and bathrooms with.
none of that's coming from Highway 44. I'm talking about the stuff
No,
along.
the ones in
I'm
the
talking
park.
about the park.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll have to locate everything.
What's
Did
the
our guys
downside to contracting out? I mean,
Just
It's
obviously
about
cost.
$2,500 a tree at a minimum. That's the downside.
Starting.
And what kind of manpower are we gonna be spending?
A lot. A lot.
So I'm curious what the cost difference would be, and if we potentially end up with somebody injured or a line
Could-
that's.
Is there any way we could maybe get like,
I mean,
somebody
not
to come
everything
help
is
our
worth the
guys?
cost to save
I
money.
have zero objection to contracting out all of this.
no, I'm saying like a class, to at least give them a semblance of what they need, because if you're not tied off properly, like this, real problems will happen if we are elevated with chainsaws cutting down big trees when we are not normally doing that.
Mhm. We can do any of these things.
If you need a recommendation of a safety guy, we can call the county or the municipality, I'm sure they have somebody. Or
Can we get an
insurance company.
RFP for this project?
Yeah, we can. It's probably what we're going to have to do eventually anyway to take care of the street trees. That's something that we're not going to be messing with.
Did you guys handle some?
And we're gonna have to do it anyway to get, I mean, you're looking at all the trees along Elm Street that are, if not branching into, or will soon be branching back into the power line, the overhead power lines. We've got trees near the playground and baseball field that are gonna be messing with overhead power. Those are the things that we're gonna have to put an RFP out for anyway. So if we wanna do more, there's no harm in doing so.
Right.
And if we decide that we can handle some of these down the road and we can make it smaller, that's fine.
But let's maybe talk to some people and get our guys some helpful tips.
If that's the route we go.
At the very
I
minimum.
mean, if our guys are, cause I'm not kidding you, it's a learned deal. Like, there aren't very many old lumberjacks for a reason.
Did they do some of the trees after the tornado, our guys?
But most of them were halfway.
Yeah.
Most of them were already on the ground or on their way.
All those marked red X is what you wanna do this year?
There's more. I don't know if they've been marked yet, but
And is there, I guess just timeline, can we spread this out, or is it something that has to be done this year?
I think the park stuff we wanna handle this year. The street trees will probably be a next year deal.
We're at on Elm.
The outside the softball fence, between Park Drive and the gravel driveway to new concession stand. So you remember after the tornado, the ones on the south side of the softball field were all, they started topping them, they said, can we just take all these out, 'cause it's gonna be a disaster in 5 years again. We said, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
The good news is we're also planting trees, we're not just taking.
All
them out.
ash trees?
No ash trees and no maple trees. No maple.
Probably the sooner the better in the park.
Let's do all
because
black
It's gonna
walnut.
be trash from everywhere, so
Offered milk.
to try to get it back by the 4th of July.
Well, and if we, if you're contracting that out, if we do an RFP, do a month out, you're looking at late May. We're probably looking at after July 4th for this to start, so.
Hey, you know that tree that's in my front yard? Don't put any of those. Drive by and see whatever kind of tree that is, don't put any of those there.
Cottonwood?
No, it's not like, it's the thing that drops the little pellet things,
Oh, yeah.
the bean pods.
So,
I would like to make a motion to,
You can take it.
well, I really don't need a motion if you know what it's gonna cost, right? We just have to decide if we wanna go with the service.
so maybe table this one.
I think we need to get more information and
Let me look at this a second, just to make sure that we've,
especially if it's gonna be July before we do it, I mean, we got time here.
Can we put it out?
we don't say in the plan how we're going to remove the trees. We just say that they're going to be removed. So you can approve the plan with
Yeah.
guidance to
I'll make a
issue an
motion
RFP.
I'll make a motion to approve the plan and also get some additional information on cost of not only tree removal, but safety and training if needed.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, is there any further discussion? Do we need roll call since we don't know how much money we're spending, but we are
This is
spending
just-
money?
You're not authorizing
Or just the
anyone.
plan? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to approve.
Alright,
Second?
motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 10:19.
Sweet. That's it.
That's it.
From the record? Me too.
That's not a record. not a new league. 21 walks.
That segment, I'll know.
Boulder.
Yeah, no, that's too many questions.
Are you